So for me, in order to essentially deal with some of these issues, I will just right now initialize age to 0, just to make sure that my compiler is not going to give me this error anymore, and I can compile it, right? Because before age was uninitialized, compiler realizes this is just a random garbage value, and it wasn't happy with that and gave me that error because it thought it was too dangerous to use it without any kind of initialization. So let me work on the plan to essentially implement the minimal version of this application. Well, I can basically think of my user interaction as ask user to enter the data. So first of all, I can imagine that this whole thing is going to be happening in a loop, right? So some kind of while loop, which may be an endless loop like this, like for forever. I can say to the user, I can say std cout enter 1 to continue, or 0 to exit, right? So I can ask the user for, prompt them for some kind of a way of exiting out of this application, and I can say then if, for example, and let's just say an integer answer. We can get that integer answer from the user. Std sin standard input, read this answer, and we can say that if answer is 0, for example, right, we can basically exit out and just say break. From your Java class, you already know that you can create a loop. This is an endless loop, right? So this is the ending of my while loop right here. And if they set 0, then I will exit out of this. And of course, I need to use output operator in front of the string. So this will be a very simple loop. So then I can say cdc out, and I can say pet owner name, so I can ask for the name. And if I would like to be able to include spaces in a string that will input the name, then I will use getLine. GetLine is actually a function in C++ standard library which will input the entire line. This is similar to next line in Java. So getLine requires basically the input device, which is sin in my case, and I think that the name is variable is name. So this way I can enter the name of the pet owner, right? Pet owner name, and use getLine to get it from the keyboard. Similarly, I will do this name or other data collection in a similar manner. Pet owner age, we decided to ask for age, so we can keep it lined up like this. So this time it's simply going to be sin input age, Okay, that will do fine. And we also going to ask for the address, so this is going to be similar to asking for name. I'm going to say pet owner address, and that is going to be another string, so this of course will be collecting the address, just the text that contains the address. I would like to remind you that both name and address are strings. So there are other type of smart objects which are strings of characters, and they're typically used to dynamically populate text data in your programs. Okay, so that's that gives me enough information to be able to instantiate the object, and I decided to create the pet owner, having constructor for this class that includes name, age, and address, right? So just to be sure, in my pet license CPP file right here, I have, if you notice, I have this constructor, which of course is added to our header file, right? If you downloaded your header file here, then you can see that pet owner has in its public section of this class, I have a list of constructors. So far I have one constructor that says pet owner, right? And it takes name, age, and address as 3 parameters. But of course this part is just the declaration of the constructor that goes into the class declaration. Class implementation is placed. Let me resize this and now start showing it side by side. Right? So if I move my implementation file to this side, so this is my implementation CPP file, which of course includes pet license, so it knows what pet owner is, right? And so this is basically implementation of the constructor, which takes these 3 variables as parameters, and basically uses initializer list to populate the name, the age, and address inside the pet owner object, right? So when in my main program, when I say pet owner, let's create an owner object, it takes 1, 2, 3 parameters, and these are the 3 parameters which will be passed to this constructor, and it will simply populate these values inside the object fields, and we will create an instance of a pet owner at this point inside our main program. Okay, so I'm assuming this is all should be going okay, and my next step in this long loop where I'm trying to interact with the user, this is going to be my next question to for the next question for the pet owner. How many pets do you have? And so we'll be expecting the number of pets, which is an integer, right? So integer number of pets. Okay, and I will now enter this number from the standard input. I will just use the simplest way of using entering it from the keyboard. In my case, it's just basically use the SIN, which is character input device, and use this input operator and say populate this integer with whatever number they type. Okay, so how many pets do you have? And perhaps for each pet now, I will be collecting the corresponding data, which is which is here. If I also display this, move this to the next tab group, you can see that for each pet, I will be asking for name, the type, the age, the color, and the adoption, whether this is an adoption. So let's do something very similar as we did with with the name, age, and address related to the pet owner. I can simply create these variables, right? So they're just basically, I can do this by copying and pasting it over here. Now I will be collecting information about pets, right? So I will have to populate these variables, right? So create the owner object now. I think the comment here may be populate collection of pets, right? So, and we're just getting started with this process, right? So we need those 5 variables to store, temporary store information about each pet. And we can say we can create another while loop, right? And again, I will use this endless loop while true, like this is this loops forever, right? And over here, something very, very simple. Again, I will say similar to pet owner name, similarly, I will be collecting information about the pet name, right? Pet name, and we're going to enter this name. Okay. So then pet name, and likewise. So every time I need to collect a string, I can use getLine, which will allow spaces in the entry. If you don't need spaces, you can just use this syntax to get the input.